Hello, this is Andrew with Missing Remote. I mentioned on the site that we were planning to build a passive house, a brand new passive house. This is the site of that passive house, hopefully. As I was walking home, I realized that I forgot to talk about what a passive house is. It is, in a nutshell, high level, super high efficient home that you do voluntarily to reduce your energy footprint or your carbon footprint of your house. That's high level stuff. I'm planning to do a separate piece on trees down. A separate piece on why we opted to go with a passive house, what the costs are for that. See, there's a tree. Why you might want to get it certified, why we're probably going to get it certified, all that stuff in a separate video. I don't want to get into that now. I figured it would be interesting to kind of document the steps and process around doing that. There's going to be a lot of solar installation. Everything's going to be smart. And the goal is going to be net zero or hopefully net positive. The first step, once you have the property, because we're going to tear it down, as you can see, it's kind of not in the best shape, is to get the utilities disconnected. You see on the ground, there's some utility markers. That's probably for the water disconnect and possibly for the gas disconnect. Getting the city to come out to disconnect, to turn off the water, was pretty easy, but getting it actually disconnected is a little bit more complicated. It involves permits and a plumber so that they can disconnect the water lines from the main. There's the reason why they do that is to ensure that if there's some digging, like you hit the main, the inlet for water for the house, you don't rip it out of the main, because that would make a mess and be really expensive to fix. You preemptively get a plumber to come out and dig a hole in the street, maybe to disconnect everything. An interesting thing here, this is in Chicago. Well, this is not Chicago proper, but this is a suburb of Chicago. They won't let you do that during the winter months, so you have to get it done before November or after April. So like from November 1st through March 31st, you can't get the permits that you need in order to do that. So we're trying to get that done before any of that happens. The house here is not in the best shape, as you can probably see. I was originally going to go inside, but then I remembered that it really smells bad in there and I get sick every time I go inside. So I'm going to skip that and we're just going to go around the back and walk through like kind of what it's supposed to look like when we're done. So here's the backyard. The garage is actually condemned. I don't know if you can tell looking at the windows and the door. It's I could probably knock it over by leaning on it hard. Fun fact, when you buy a house that has condemned elements to it, you have to sign a whole bunch of paperwork with the city, or at least we did, with the city to confirm that that it's got some violations, and that if you're going to try to sell it again, you have to disclose that to potential buyers. So this obviously is going away, as are most of the trees here and the house and foundation. The house was built sometime in the 1920s, so it's about 100 years old and has not been maintained well. I think the foundation is actually rotting. There's like pieces of crumbling, it's not really brick, but something coming off the walls down in there. I don't like to go down there. The ceilings aren't the right height either. It's not safe for me. I have to walk bent over. So garage is going to go away. This town, you're allowed to build what's called an alternate dwelling unit on top of your garage if you want to, or an ADU. The plan here is to get an ADU roughed out in the initial plan, so that if one of our older kids want to come live here after they graduate from college, that would be an option that's available to them. Doing that in the initial build is probably going to be too expensive. We probably won't be able to make that work. So, something you want to plan for, but not something that we necessarily are going to do in the first build here. Both the roof for the garage ADU and the roof for the house, when it's done, are going to be flat-ish and somewhat tilted backwards, because this way is south and that way is north. So this is a great position to mount, to get a lot of solar generation working here. I don't know how flat it's going to be. I don't remember what the angle is for maximum generation, or even if that's feasible here in Illinois. But that's the goal, is to get as much solar as we can on the garage and on the house. Passive house is going to be all electric. There's no gas. So that's going to have to be planned for. And then for resilience, they're going to put in some batteries. The article that I put on the site was actually about the batteries. PV or solar panels, that's probably not going to be a very complicated thing to sort out. Right now I'm leaning towards some SunPower Maxeon 430 watt panels, but the timeline for this is probably 18 months to 2 years. So things could change between now and then, and we probably won't need to commit to the panels until about 6 months before we're done. So who knows? Same thing is true for the battery, but I wanted to, the reason why I wrote the article on the site about the batteries, because that's going to be a more complicated thing to work out, because what I want to do is either 30 or 60 kilowatt hours of LFP batteries probably in the basement with a hybrid grid-tied inverter, which is unusual to do in the suburb of Chicago. The reason why I want to do that is to maximize our resilience in power outages. We have quite a few power outages in this area. They don't usually last very long, but every now and again we'll have a scheduled outage that is more than 8 hours for maintenance work. And I work from home, and my wife occasionally works from home. So having power during that time, or not having power during that time, would be very inconvenient. We're working with a local architect, hoping to have the plans done pretty soon. If you have any questions or comments, or you want to know more about one thing or another, leave me a comment or send me an email. My email address is on the website. Thanks for watching. Cheers.